Right now what I want to do is I want to segue into collars and leashes and tell you the two types of collars that I recommend and use and the leashes that we use. Okay, now what I want to do is talk about training equipment and the type of collars I use. I use two different types of collars, and it depends on the dog, depends on the dog's temperament. For a dog that's soft, for a dog that takes light corrections, for a dog that doesn't pull a lot, I like to use what's called a nylon training collar. Basically, it's similar to a chain collar. Feed the cloth end through one of the rings. Make the collar look like a P, P for perfect. When it's in front of your dog, slip it over the top of their head. So this way, when the collar pulls tight, it always releases. If it's on incorrectly, like a 9, 9 for no, when it pulls tight, it never releases. That's how they get their name, choke collars. Okay. Again, when you're placing these collars on the dog, I like to call them the Westminster collars. They have to be up high behind your dog's ears and behind the dog's neck. It's a place of least resistance. Most dogs are pulling animals. Most of their muscles are in the base of the neck and the chest area. If the collar is down low, you're not going to be able to control them. You want it up high as possible. Once it's pulled tightly on the dog's neck, you should only have an inch, maybe an inch and a half when it's pulled tightly over the dog's neck. It should be difficult going over the top of the dog's head. Once it gets to the neck part, it'll loosen up a little bit. Again, great collars for dogs that don't pull a lot, for dogs that don't take a lot of corrections, and also for some of the breeds that have issues with a tightening of the collar. Some of those breeds might be a bulldog, a Yorkie, boxers, anything that's tighter on their neck. If they start pulling on a walk, they start to cough. Over time, and as the dog continues to pull, even it can be on a buckle collar, what happens is scar tissue forms on the dog's trachea and the esophagus. And the dog will always have a coughing issue. Or they'll come in after a walk, they'll drink some water and spit it up, or some food. So this happened, this was back in the late 70s or early 80s, the Seeing Eye Foundation. They had a lot of dogs. Unfortunately, with the Seeing Eye dogs, they have to pull a little bit on the collar. And what happens, they were across the board, they were all having the same medical issues, which was the spitting up and the coughing. When they passed away of natural causes, they autopsied them, and they all had the same situation. They had scar tissue on the trachea and the esophagus, and that was from tension on the collar. So in those cases, when these collars are not good for your dog, for a dog that's choking a lot or coughing, I'd like to use what's called a prong or a pinch collar. It looks a lot more archaic than the nylon collar, but it actually is a safer collar. The collar is comprised of two rings, the round ring and the swivel ring. That's what you attach your leash to. The round ring actually keeps the collar from tightening on the dog's neck. The prongs on the collar are not sharp. It gives the puppy the sensation of a bite. So if your puppy or your young dog is with its mother and they do something wrong, the mother puts its mouth on it and bites it. That's the same sensation this collar gives. Now, it's not sharp like teeth, so it's not going to puncture your dog's neck, but it's the same sensation that the dog feels when it's with its mother. When you place this collar on the dog, you want to make sure you're going to take the collar apart by the middle link. So you grab your leash like this, grab down here, and you're going to pull the collar apart like that. When you put it back together, you squeeze right back in to the center of the collar. Okay? So this way it's to stay up nice on your dog's neck. Same thing with this collar. Once it's on your dog's neck, you should be able to slide your hand underneath, but you don't want it too big where your dog bends over and smells the ground and the collar falls off his head. Okay? Now for a leash, to me, it doesn't matter if you use a nylon leash, a leather leash, or cotton leash. It's what you feel more comfortable with. I recommend a 6-foot leash if you prefer to use a 4 or 5-foot leash, especially if you're shorter in stature and your dog is a little bit taller. What you want to do is you're going to place the loop of the leash over your right thumb. Typically, the dogs are worked on our left side. That's what I do in our right hand. With your right hand, you're going to grasp down by the dog's collar. You're going to measure up to your belly button. You're going to make a second loop out of that where you measure up to your belly button, put it over your index finger like a ring, shut your hand, the whole leash comes out of the bottom of your hand. And then you're going to drop your hands right here to your waist. So it's a little bit lower than your belly button. You want to make sure that you have a little loop in the leash, but there's not too much slack where the dog can be able to go too far away from